the game advances, but I feel like sometimes people don't really let it advance. I wanted to talk more on this topic as I think a lot of people are misunderstanding or misconstruing my ideas in ways I never explicitly stated. I made a short video due to YouTube Shorts and TikTok time restrictions that I wasn't really able to fully verbalize what I wanted. So I'm fixing this now and I will completely explain everything in detail and be able to back it up. I hope what people can take away from this is that new ideas are meant to be controversial. They're meant to be thought of as wrong because foreign things are not understood yet. Foreign things have not been experienced yet. Imagine telling a player to freeze the wave in Season 1. But people need to be willing to learn new things if they want to get better. I'm a jungler. I love to full clear. I have no issue with full clearing. It's guaranteed resources and minimizes your risks if a play goes wrong. I also think for low elo players that it's best to just play this way, as you won't be able to identify good plays, and most of the time the best play is probably for them to just full clear. I'm a coach and I still coach low elo players to only look for plays when their camps are down. I still wanted to make this video though, as I think this is something not a lot of people can understand, but it's super strong when you're good enough to, and as the game develops, maybe more people will be able to do this better. But the thing is, if you can't understand this video and needed me to drop a 20-minute video or write everything down in your face, then this concept's just too hard for you, and you should just stick to full clearing and only making plays when your camps are down. You know, that's just a jab at a certain couple people that they know who they are after hearing this. But honestly, I was mostly just joking when I say that. But anyways, my issue is that people have gotten so constricted to full clearing that they aren't really willing to or able to identify when a play is correct to go for instead of just hitting respawning camps. First, before I go more in depth, I just want to get this out of the way by saying my camps are not losing tempo or desyncing by going for this dragon. That is just not factually true. The time it takes for me to do this dragon with my bot lane hitting it was 10 seconds. Merely more than killing any one camp. So if we look at the gold and XP comparison here, you can see that while the XP is split between my team and the XP gold comparison is actually a surplus given this play. So even aside from mentioning that the effect of dragon stats and soul factor in, is actually an overall net positive to go for the dragon over Krugs. If I really wanted to sync my tempo and speed with the enemy jungler, which is important, I'll just skip my Krugs and just run to the Raptors to maintain my position. Doing this proves that my camps don't actually desync. Even going for the dragon, I will still be up top at the exact same time as Rengar. So let's visualize what this looks like. Theoretically, at the time I am doing dragon, Rengar will be able to hit Gromp. Then after I do dragon, after he hits Gromp, he'll be on Wolves and me on Raptors. Next, with him on Raptors, me on Wolves. And lastly, we'll just both be at our top camp at the exact same time. The only thing that matters when you're cycling camps is when you finish your last camp. So if I essentially replace the Krugs camp with the dragon, not only am I getting a better camp, I'm essentially maintaining the same experience and gold income as I would have if I full cleared while meeting top at the exact same time as Rengar. This actually is a concept I don't see a lot of junglers utilize, even aside from dragons. As a jungler, you can kind of think of each jungle camp or move you make as a move in like a chess game. Let's say both junglers full clear towards bot and recall go top to their respawning camps. If one jungler makes a gank top and causes them to be late to their Krugs or Gromp by 10 seconds, you spent a move on ganking top, which is completely okay, right? If you're going to get a kill out of it, you gain around 300 gold and you get a little kill XP, but now you have to skip your Krugs to maintain sync with the enemy jungler. So that way they can't just gank bot without you being there or invade, your Wolves or Raptors because you're late to them. So I don't know where this concept came from. People saying my camps are all desynced and not respawning if I hit dragon, because this is just something people need to get out of their heads, as it only matters if you're not making a good move in place of it. If I go for a top gank that is bad and I get nothing out of it, then yes, I am behind. But if I'm making a play that I'm willing to choose over going for my Krugs and I skip my Krugs to maintain sync, it is always worth it. Okay, I wouldn't say always because you got to determine that, but I am choosing to go for that play. The problem is you have to be able to choose that play. That becomes the issue. So I don't really think it's fair for people to say, or with good faith, that not hitting your camps is bad because if you go for a bad play, it's bad. Because a good player will always make a good move in turn. So the problem I have with people quoting my post is that they're really misconstruing my idea as that whenever you're ahead or whenever you have an item spike that you should always force a play instead of full clearing. I'd never said this. I think when given the opportunity, you should always look for a play, which is completely different from forcing a play. A good reason for this is you can actually guarantee the outcome of your play in the current game state. Here I know with absolute certainty I can get this dragon, and I also know with absolute certainty that afterwards my camps will still be there to take, or I can invade the enemy camps. Whereas if I full clear, I fully rely on what the map state looks like 30 to 60 seconds from now, which I can never guarantee. Maybe 30 seconds from now, you can foresee the game and you can look for a crash dive, but even then, it's not a full guarantee. This leads to my next point that I believe people don't actively think about in the jungle, and I think it's actually something that can completely change how the game is played, and that's decision trees. What I mean by this is I think as a jungler, it's very important, as long as you're not doing a dumb play just to do it, to put yourself in a position that you have as many options as you can, because the game is very dynamic and any one sequence can completely change your next step. Which is why having options is important, as even if something happens you don't expect, you will always have another option to fall back on. In this scenario, let's look at my decision trees from Dragon. I have the option to invade. Although it's reliant on Rengar going to Grubs, I still believe it's reasonable to recognize as it impacts the decision tree from my full clear, and I'll explain more on that later. But my other options are to gank mid or bot, which are a little unreliable and conditional on ultimates, you know, gank setup, vision, etc. However, it's still something that is possible given the opportunity arises. And if all else fails, I still have the option of going back to farming my camps that have no risk of getting taken without losing any speed or timers on my clear. So how does my decision tree look if I full clear? After Gromp, my options are, pretty limited. I have the option to gank mid or top, which is essentially the exact same reason as the previous decision tree for being unreliable and conditional. And I have no option to ever invade, as in every scenario his top camps are unavailable to be invaded. And my last option is just Grubs, assuming Rengar would open bot, as I think most Rengars would. The problem with this is even though it's likely available in most games where Rengar would open bot, it's not a guarantee. As you can see in this game, Rengar decides to open on Grubs, which is another reason why it's important to take actions that you can guarantee in the current game state. Even if Rengar doesn't open on Grubs, Rengar can also just go straight from Dragon and contest me on Scuttle and Grubs if he chooses. He has a hard winning top mid, so he can choose if he wants to take Grubs. I don't even get to guarantee Grubs if they are up with me pathing top. To make matters worse, even if Rengar doesn't challenge me, it's very easy for Yone or Lissandra to just push me off themselves. Grubs is just a much worse objective than Dragon, especially since our team is bad at pushing towers aside from me. I have 3 losing lanes, which means it's very hard for them to snowball off plates during their laning phase. So essentially, my only decision is a Grubs play that isn't even guaranteed given Rengar wants to contest it, and it's a much weaker objective than the one that I got guaranteed in Dragon from earlier. I want to talk more on what I said earlier about item spikes. So the reason I think you should be looking for a chance to play in your item spikes is for the fact that almost every time you are coming out of base, you will be stronger than the enemy. You will have full resources and gold spent, whereas the enemy will likely have less than full HP and be sitting on a few hundred to maybe 1,000 gold. The game is taken in turns, and you want to play on your turn. In this example, let's say I have only Dusk and Dawn, right? And no other components. Given my gold advantage, let's say Rengar's only recipe items. Why should I not do something when I have the advantage, yet wait till I full clear, make a play where Rengar can equalize his disadvantage by recalling and getting an item spike, as I'll be sitting on 400 gold after my full clear, and theoretically I'm ahead, but without actually spending that gold, I'm not really ahead. Even if I'm able to spend that gold, it is a much stronger advantage to have a Dusk and Dawn spike versus just components, rather than Dusk and Dawn with a couple components versus any one full item. So aside from all the proof of me not desyncing camps and still maintaining my gold and XP income, I hope this goes to show that playing on your power spikes and what is currently available to you is just a much stronger way to play the game than just full clearing and praying that something will happen to you in the future, or ending up feeling homeless full clearing and there being no play. I still want to emphasize that you want to be looking for good and high EV plays and not just forcing random fights or invades without considering enemy summoners, spells, etc. The idea isn't just to fight because you're stronger, but to take advantages while you have them and not hope one comes to you later. Still don't break your full clear before your first upgraded smite. I still think that's bad. And after your first item, it gets a lot easier to actually look for these plays. I'm not perfect at this, of course, but I promise if you can grasp this concept, and I still can't grasp this, but whoever does, the game will feel like a playground, and you will feel like you decide the entire flow of the game, and you will never feel like you can't do anything. I think this is the next level to play the game, and I think people cannot fully understand it yet. And I hope maybe 2 or more seasons from now, people can look back and be like, wow, if only I could have perfected this earlier. And, imagine having season 3 faker level advancement. That's what this is.